A shout out of kindness makes headlines at Wimbledon. A gym owner brings athletes with disabilities face to face with Superman. And a retired couple shows us adventure doesn't stop at 70. Plus, a heartwarming friendship over Wendy's and a Texan's 100-mile journey of faith. That's all coming up on the Feel Good Flyover. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Hess, and welcome to the Feel Good Flyover, where every Friday we bring you the stories that lift your spirit and showcase the good. This week, we take a closer look at the power of kindness and the big impact it can have. All right, let's get right to our top stories of the week. Father Jim is not your average priest. He once brought 2 bottles of Kentucky bourbon to the Vatican and asked Pope Francis to sign them to raise tens of thousands of dollars for charity. For him, kindness doesn't have to be quiet. Sometimes it's bold, joyful, and a little bit unconventional. And his most recent act of kindness lit up Wimbledon and the internet. As Princess Kate stepped out into the summer sun for her first public appearance since announcing her cancer diagnosis, one voice rose from the crowd, spontaneous, joyful, and unmistakably heartfelt. Father Jim Sichko, a Catholic priest from Lexington, Kentucky, stood up and shouted, "I love you, Kate!" All right, thank you so much for joining me today. Tell me about your extraordinary Wimbledon moment and what was going through your mind when you looked up and saw Kate's reaction after you shouted, "I love you."
Well, what was very interesting was I didn't see her reaction at all. In fact, it was so spontaneous. This was not something that was planned. I just saw how beautiful and radiant and how she has persevered in her role and in her life. And so I just screamed out, "I love you, Kate." And then I left the stadium and then I texted out and on social media to everyone saying, "Look, I did this. It was spontaneous, and I want to apologize if this was not proper." And then I left it at that and got to my hotel room, and texts were coming in. People were sharing that it was all over social media and all over the news. It was all a gesture of really spontaneity and support.
Surviving cancer 3 times and living with depression and anxiety has given Father Jim deep empathy. He says it fuels his mission to ease burdens and remind people they're not alone. That calling, he said, was shaped early on by his parents, who opened their home to 5 Vietnamese refugee families, even giving up their own beds so the newcomers could rest. Today, that same spirit of everyday kindness drives his work, whether he's handing out gift cards to flight attendants or covering funeral costs for Texas flood victims. So I asked him, as a missionary of mercy, how do you know when God is calling you to help someone?
You have to know the servant's voice. And that's what's so interesting. You know, when I travel and I speak to groups of people, I often ask them, do you know what the sound of God's voice is in your life? Seriously, the way God speaks to you or to your listeners is not the way God speaks to me. And so when I hear that voice called to say, do this, then I do it, even when I don't have the resources to do it. I mean, it's going to cost a lot to bury. I've gotten 11 to 12 parents that have called, but I don't have fear because that's how God provides.
Well, these spontaneous acts of kindness, how do these everyday encounters you have? I mean, some of these are big encounters where they're just tragedy, but some of these are just small, little kind of happy moments that you have with just the everyday person that you just come in contact with. How does that really fuel your mission of mercy?
Everything. Anytime I'm on an airplane, and by the way, I'm on an airplane at least 3 to 4 times a week, I always bring gift cards to the flight attendants and to the pilots. I've never missed in my 9 years of traveling. And it might not be a gift card with a lot of money on it, but it says to them, hey, I appreciate you and your work doesn't go unnoticed. It's the simple things that really warm people's hearts. Letting someone go in front of you if they have fewer items, taking the time to pay someone behind you, asking someone, do they need assistance? I recognize whatever I do to others, I hope it will be done back to me, that the grace I give will be given back. Because that's what we're taught about, that whatever you do to the least of one another, you not only do to God, but it comes back to you 1,000-fold. And it has, and it will, and it does.
To see Kate's stunning smile caught right after Father Jim shouted, "I love you," we have the link for you in today's show notes. From one bold act of kindness at Wimbledon to a behind-the-scenes moment of super kindness on a movie set, our next story takes us to a gym that celebrates athletes of all abilities, and the day two of those athletes met a superhero in real life. Britt Ferrara, founder of Buddy Strong Academy, brought two of her athletes with Down syndrome to visit her brother on the set of a film you've probably heard of. Superman just shattered records with a $122 million opening weekend, making it the #1 movie in the United States and Canada. But it wasn't the box office numbers that left a lasting impression. It was how the film's star, David Cornsweet, stepped off set and into a moment of real-life heroism by being kind. You got to meet a superhero not that long ago. What was it like to go on to the set of Superman and to actually meet him?
To be nice.
He's a superhero and he was nice?
Yes.
Yes, he was. He was super nice. What was your favorite thing about meeting Superman?
Save the kids.
He saves kids, yeah. I think his favorite was he had a, little badge. He took the time and signed, a little thing for him and put it around his neck. And where'd you put that? You hung it in your bedroom, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he has that with a picture of Superman and him in his bedroom, and he talks about it all the time.
What was it like for you to just see the reactions and just to kind of witness that moment?
One of the second assistant directors saw us outside. He said, "Do you want to meet Superman?" It was unexpected, but it was awesome to see their faces. But not even their faces. Seeing his face, I felt like he was more excited to even meet them. He just was super genuine, wholesome, When you watch all the Superman movies and you see what he stands for, it was just, you got to witness it in real life.
That kind of genuine connection is what Buddy Strong Academy is all about. It's more than a gym. It's a much-needed community. After seeing how few options existed for young adults with disabilities once they leave high school, Britt got certified in adaptive training and created a space where everyone belongs. Families now drive up to 45 minutes just to be a part of it, because for many, it's the only place where fitness, friendship, and real inclusion come together.
I think my goal is to eventually do a little bit of work like Superman, make sure everybody's, fairly treated and be a little bit more equal, because that's what Superman's always embodied. He offers optimism and he fights for what's right and has mutual respect for everybody.
If you would like to learn how to become more involved or donate to this super gym, check out the link in today's show notes. From a gym helping young adults of all abilities stay strong and active to a couple proving that adventure doesn't end at age 70, Mel Richards and Deborah and Cathey set out to hike all 63 U.S. national parks. So they laced up their boots and started checking off their bucket list one stop at a time. What first inspired you both to set out on this goal of visiting all 63 U.S. national parks together?
We both love to travel. And we went to Big Bend National Park with our grandsons. And then we went to Acadia with Mel's mom and Guadalupe National Park by ourselves, I think.
Yeah, it was by ourselves.
And then Carlsbad with grandkids again. And we were getting ready to retire about 9 years ago. And somebody suggested that we read Dear Bob and Sue. And so we did. And we said, wouldn't that be fun? Because when we retired, we knew we didn't want to sit around and not travel. So we decided that we would make that a goal.
Well, I know this journey took you to some pretty remote places, including Isle Royale and even seaplane rides. Which park surprised you the most and why?
I knew Alaska was beautiful, and I knew I would like it. I had flown through Anchorage a few times back when I was in the military, but you don't really see Alaska. I did. I see it from the airports. Well, there are the mountains. But when we went to Alaska, I said, wow, this is a lot better than I thought. It was just really a cool place, met really cool people, and it was just nice.
I agree. And Alaska in itself is diverse. So you have Wrangell, St. Elias, and then you have Katmai. So different. They're so different.
Well, looking back now, how has this adventure shaped your view on travel, aging, and just really living life to the fullest?
Well, we still love to travel, and we've had to change what we do because of our age. And, like I had a hip replacement, Mel had a hip replacement and a knee replacement.
Oh.
And so we used to go on 10 and 20-mile hikes and backpack, and now we're like, I don't know, that's a 5-mile hike. I'm not sure we're up for it. But it's a great way to see the country and learn so much. Like I was telling somebody earlier that we always go to the park office and talk to the rangers, and we try to look at the exhibits where you learn a lot.
And listen to people. Anywhere you are, listen to, in a restaurant, the hotel, the park office, wherever you see somebody, just listen to what they say and maybe ask them a couple of questions. Because people give you a lot of, pretty helpful. That's pretty
Sure. Cool. They shared some other tips as well, like planning ahead, sometimes up to a year in advance, staying flexible. Sometimes things don't always go as planned. And don't wait to start. You don't have to visit all 63 parks to experience the magic. Just pick one and go. And if you're looking for inspiration or ideas, we'll link to the National Parks Travel Facebook group where Deborah first shared their journey and sparked a love for travel. Before we wrap up, here are a few more feel-good stories to make your day. We start with an unexpected friendship that's melting hearts online. In Miami, 29-year-old Estrella spotted 97-year-old Lillian slowly walking with a walker and felt compelled to help. After looping back, she offered Lillian a ride and a Wendy's lunch, and the two bonded over shared Nicaraguan roots and kind conversation. Lillian, a retired accountant living alone on government assistance, now has a new friend. And thanks to a viral video with millions of views, a GoFundMe has raised over $21,000 to support her. As Estrella says, sometimes a few kind words are all it takes to change a life. From an unexpected friendship to an unexpected rescue, a newly adopted dog in a small village in India started barking in the middle of the night and ended up saving dozens of lives. His owner woke up, noticed water coming in, and ran to warn neighbors. Just minutes later, a landslide swept through the area, destroying nearly everything. Thanks to the dog's warning, all 67 people in the village made it out safely. And lastly, a Texan who put his feet and his faith to work for flood victims. Jack Stradinger ran 100 miles in under 24 hours with no training and a body full of surgical scars, all to raise money for families devastated by flooding in Kirk County. He says all the glory goes to God and that pushing through the pain was his way of standing with those who've lost so much. His run raised $20,000 and reminded everyone watching what true endurance and compassion look like. All right, our video of the week comes from England from 10-year-old Louie, who gave the toast at his mom and dad's wedding reception. They had separated, but then reconciled, and his speech is warming hearts everywhere. Just take a listen.
One of my most important things to say today is to say to my mum and dad, well, thank you so much, Mum, for never ever missing a football game. That has always supported me, and that's why I am the player I am today. You've always came to training sessions, you never missed anything, but you always look beautiful in my eyes. And Dad, you have been supporting me through the highs, the lows, anything really. But thank you for just taking care of my mum, and it's now in your hands to make sure she becomes the best woman she can be.
All right, we're coming in for a landing, but before we do, let's take a moment with Amy's altitude check. This is a chance to pause, reflect, and let the good sink in. In my conversation off screen with Father Jim, he said something that really stayed with me. It cost nothing to be kind. That simple truth is all over this episode in big gestures and small ones. And I've been thinking kindness may not cost anything, but it could change everything. A friendship, a second chance, a sense of belonging. So as we head into this next week, let's look for those zero-cost moments. The smile we offer, the stranger we help, the prayer we share. You never know who needs it or how far it might go. All right, well, that's going to do it for this week's Feel Good Flyover podcast. Thanks for spending your time with me. If you loved these stories, send one to a friend. We could all use a little more good news. There are even more good news stories in our email edition of the Feel Good Flyover. It's free and easy to sign up. Just head to jointheflyover.com. All right, have a great rest of your day. I'm Amy Hess, and as always, remember to look for the good.